Oh, okay. So in honor of the special days we find ourselves in, the days of Sfiras Omer, and the parsha we had last week, and we're preparing for Shuas, and a few other reasons we mentioned why it's very appropriate to talk about the mitzvah of Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. Last week we discussed many various ways to explain just the word kamoicha. And this week I want to move on in the pasuk. What's the next word? What's the next words after V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha? Ani Hashem. That's how the verse goes. And that's what we want to discuss. What's the deeper connection? What's the flow? Why does it say first V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha and then the words Ani Hashem right after? What is the Torah telling us? We know that usually it's two separate categories, right? The luchos, the 10 Commandments are divided into two, between us and Hashem, between us and fellow human beings. So why in this pasuk we have it like blurred, like Ani Hashem? What's the deeper connection? So that's the question we're going to explore for today. We're going to do many, many different insights and ideas and lessons. And hopefully we'll get a lot of practical points as well. Okay. So Tzvi, this is what we're going to focus on. You just in front. So we start off with a story. It happened to a great Hasidic master when he was in Cheder. But first, you ever noticed how Hashem's name is written in most of the holy books? Yud? Yes, 2 yuds. With these kind of vowels. What's the reason? Why is Hashem's name represented this way? So first of all, we learn out from a verse. We learn out.
Pronounce it? Are you allowed to pronounce it?
We learn out from a verse. Okay. Yeah, it's not really a thing.
You can say yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. You'll see why. You'll soon see.
I didn't remember that.
We learn out from this pasuk that there's two ways Hashem's name is written and pronounced. That it's two different ways how it's expressed. There's the way it's written, is Yud, then a Hey, then a Vav, and a K. And then we pronounce it Adonai. Aleph Daled Nun Yud. And we learn this out from a pasuk, that it's generally not to be pronounced. We don't even write it carefully. This helps ingrain reverence for Hashem. We don't even write it anywhere where something could happen to it. What do we do instead? We say Adoi followed by a noi sound, which means our master. And this is why even in English people write God without spelling it fully. They put a dash. Right? Hashem actually means just the name. It's another way, that's the common word we use, but it just means the name. It's instead of saying a name, we just say the name. So the halacha is that when you say Hashem's name, you're supposed to reflect on both. That's what it says in Kirtan Shulchan Aruch. So the way it's written, and the way it's pronounced. So they took the Yud from here, the way it's written, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, which means the Creator, the one who makes everything exist. Also means Haya Hai V'V'Yiyeh. He's beyond time, beyond space, beyond our world, and he's the Creator, makes everything to be. And Adonai means our master, our boss, our king. And we combine both. We took the Yud from the beginning and the Yud from the end, and also explains the vowels, because this has a Shva, this has a Kamat. So that's why we use this for Hashem's name.
I have a question.
To remind you everything. Yeah.
Isn't the second name of the Yud? Isn't that just the same as saying Hashem? Because it's not saying Hashem.
No, it's also
it's expressing a part of Hashem, but it's not saying any of Hashem's
right.
name.
But there's a lot of titles of Hashem that are considered also. In Chassidus, it even associates it with one of the spheres. Sometimes Adonai is Malchus, and it is a name for itself that was revealed to Moshe by the burning bush. but beyond the scope of this class. This is just nice to know as an introduction to the story. So the story goes that one time the class was learning about the Torah, the verses with the translating, and the Rebbe told the students that whenever you see two yuds, like I just told you, you say Hashem. You say Hashem. That represents Hashem's name. And he asked one of the boys to read, and the boy read everything flawlessly. He translated every word beautiful. One strange thing he did. Whenever he finished a verse, he would say Hashem, because he explained to the teacher. The teacher asked him, "What are you doing? Why do you keep saying God's name whenever you finish the verse?" He said, "You told us that when there's two yuds, you say Hashem. In those days, there was no fancy fonts. And what do we have by the end of the verse? We have two dots. So he thought you have to say Hashem. It's two yuds." So the teacher was a very real educator. He took the opportunity to teach them. It sounds much better in the Yiddish, but he taught them as follows. It's a Polish Yiddish. He said, "Ayid is Ayid. Ayid is Ayud is Ayud. Ayid is a Yud. A letter Yud represents a Jew. A pintel Yid, a Jewish soul. This the Yud, the essence of a Jew. When two Yuds are side by side, when they're getting along, respecting each other, cherishing each other, not feeling I'm better than you, I'm higher, you're lower. You don't have that. There's equally respectful and so on. Then what do you have? Hashem's presence, Hashem's name. But when one Jew is on top of the other one, and he feels I'm better and you're lower and I'm higher, and they're not equal, then what do you have? The end, the finished. That's when all our problems start. We open the door for all our enemies whenever we don't get along. So this is the first insight I want to share with you. What's the next word? Ani Hashem. Because when the Jews are connected, respectful, they're getting along, then you have the presence of Hashem is manifest. Similarly, Shachanti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel. What's the middle? Again, the same idea, the two yuds. It's also another reason why he's chosen.
What else could it have said?
It's just hinting to this. That's why they took the two yuds. It's not that it could have said something else. Whatever it wanted to say, there's many reasons for every word chosen in the Torah, infinite insights. But it happens to be they found another allusion to Hashem dwelling amongst the Yidden when the Yidden are together. Okay. For those of you who are more mathematically and mystically inclined, Chaim Vital, who is the foremost student of the Arizal, he points out that Ava is 13, right? 5, 2, and 1, plus another Jew. So you have two Jews. When they have Avas Yisrael, what do you have? 26, which is Hashem's name, right? Yud K, Vav K, when the Jews are getting along, Ava and Ava is Havaya. Hey is 5, but the real name is Yud, then Hey, Vav, and then another Hey. The same thing, Echad. We say Echad Tam, Echad Rosh, right? Echad Chacham, Echad, right? We say all the sons. Each Jew is one. So one, the word one actually adds up to 13. If you spell it out, right? One, the first letter, the 8th letter, and the 4th letter. So when you have one Jew and another Jew together, again, you have the name of Hashem. And the story goes that there was once a Jew came to visit his friend. He came in the middle of the night. And he didn't want to wake him up. So you see, he found an abandoned building. And he stayed there for the night. He didn't realize that this was a hideout for like bandits. And there was a whole commotion in the middle of the night. And someone was killed. And the Jew ended up being accused and blamed for it. And they were taking him out to be hung publicly in the square, in the marketplace. And a friend didn't even know he arrived because he was caught there in that place he was innocent, but he was falsely accused. The Jews didn't have so much rights those days in those places, and he sees the whole commotion, and he sees his good friend is being taken out to be executed. They're wrapping the rope around his neck. So he realizes right away that he's being falsely accused of a crime. He asked a little bit what's going on, and they said, yeah, the Jew was accused of so and so. So he quickly decides to make the noble, shocking decision to give his own life instead. And he runs forward, and he jumps up on the platform, and he says, I admit, I confess, it was I who did the crime. That's like, whoa, whole commotion now. Whoa, this is like unheard of. Even in our Gemara we had a das baldin kamer edim, that the person himself confessing is like 100 witnesses. So the executioner, okay, starts taking off the rope and wrapping it on the next guy. But then the first friend, he was in the middle of saying Shema and Vidoy. Took him a few seconds to realize what's going on. But then he realizes that his friend is trying to give his life to save his. He's like, oh no, you don't. And somehow he was screaming and protesting his innocence. But now he started to say, no, it was me, it was me. And take off the rope and put it on me. It made such a commotion that the king himself got involved. He heard about it and he said, this looks very uncriminal, this behavior. It's not like regular criminals. Let's look a little more into this story. And of course, he found that there wasn't really any evidence against any of them, and he let them go. But he asked them before they go, he said, please, one thing I'm asking you, I want to be in your friendship. And that's, again, this is all the same insight, but I'm telling you that Ahavtu Echa Kamoicha leads to Ani Hashem. When the Jews are together, then Hashem says, I want to be there. I want to be fulfilled in their life. Okay. This insight also explains one more point that we always heard about, but now it makes a lot more sense. That the second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because of Sinas China. They did a lot of good deeds. Why was it destroyed? Because Yeshua by Sinas China. Baseless hatred. This teaches you that it's worse than all the other sins. Now we understand why. What is the Beis Hamikdash? That's where Hashem dwelled amongst the Jewish people. What does it say? When the Jews are connected, they're respectful, that they care about each other, they're sensitive to each other, then Hashem's presence will be found there, will be resting there, will be manifest with all the blessings and so on, and the miracles. And when this was lacking, automatically it allowed Hashem's home to be destroyed. And this terrible galus was launched that we're still hoping to finish any moment. So this is the first insight. The Haftarecha Kamoicha is directly connected to Ani Hashem, right?
What?
This is our review slide. Hashem's presence in our lives depends on our relationship with others. That's another way to put it, to take away very practically. If you want to really feel Hashem, you have to be sensitive how you treat other people. It's not like it's for bringing Friday night. Kedoshim to you is not just holiness. It's not just how you sway by davening or be careful with kosher. It has to be in how you treat other people, equally or even more. Okay. Insight number 2. Love your neighbor as yourself. Oh, actually, this is, I think, a little joke before. But don't take down your fence. Okay. Here's how it goes. Here's number 2. Treat people properly. Why? Because the Creator says to do this, not because it makes sense. This is why it says it this way. Followed by Ani Hashem. Why? Why can't I be a good person, decent person, because it appeals to me? I'm a nice guy. I like to be nice. Why does it have to be because God said? Can't be a nice person without God? What's the problem with... I understand the chukim, the edus, that's because, I'm not going to... Tefillin I can only do because God said. It's not my idea of meditation, and I wouldn't think of these things. But seemingly there's mitzvahs, don't steal, don't kill, honor your parents. Why does that have to do... Why does it have to be because of God? But that's what this verse is telling me. That it has to be because Hashem said, not because it makes sense to you. Why? So I'm going to explain it. It's going to be a little bit extreme, but it still relates to all of us in not such an extreme way. The extreme way I'm going to show it is, can you see what's here? It's very weak.
Oh, yeah.
I put the background of Auschwitz, but I didn't want to put it too dark, so you can't see it. Over here you can see it, over there I can't. Anyway, during the Nazi Germany, during World War II, according to the law, good German citizens could receive 6 months of prison if they were cruel to their animal pets. You have to think about this a second. A few exclams should be like pulsing. Yeah, try to wrap your brain around that. Think a little bit of what they were doing to millions of Jews and others, and the horrific, undescribable pain and suffering that they put people through, so cruel and heartless and so on. And at the same time, they had this law for German citizens that if you don't treat your pet nicely, you can go to prison up to 6 months. How does this happen? This happens when you separate how you treat other people from because God said to do it. You say, I do it because it makes sense to me. Then what do? You could justify anything. You could make exceptions left and right and center. You could explain it. You could rationalize. Humans are very creative. And if you don't submit to a higher authority, right, it doesn't always look like that. This is an extreme illustration, right? The communists don't steal, and they said, what don't steal? You have it, I can have it, you should have it there. They just they explained everything away. Ownership and these people, they're famous for saying, this person's not human, this person's subhuman, and so on. You could just do it with anything. If you do it because it makes sense to you, the human brain is a dangerous tool. It could literally justify most extreme things that it made sense. There was all the laws, all on the books. This you're allowed to do, and this you couldn't. That's why it says, Ani Hashem. Now, in our lives, it might not look so evil and wicked, but this is what could happen. We might say things, oh, let me take one thing. Oh, this person deserves a little bit pain. Or this person I can take from him, he's so rich. But this is an exception. It's for a good cause. It's worth it. We can play around with it. It's not always doing terrible, wicked things. The same thing could happen. The justification and the rationalizations are a danger for all of us when we separate from Ani Hashem. This is another insight why the pasuk flows this way. Okay, everyone has to fill in the blanks, whatever your personal struggles are. This also explains the famous Rashi in the beginning of the Torah portion, Mishpatim. Ve'ela Mishpatim. What does Rashi say? The Vav. Ve'ela Mishpatim. Af elu misinai. Even the laws about damages and like the seemingly basic human decency laws about responsibilities and even these, you have to do it because of Sinai, not because it makes sense to you. And it says also, same thing, you can go, Rashi mentions, you can go to the secular court, even if they have the same law officially, it's a chil, because you have to do it it's a chil Hashem, you have to do it in a Jewish court, but it has to do with this, because the Jewish court says it's because Hashem said. We don't have the power, the authority to redefine things and make exceptions. Only the Torah could, only Hashem could reveal to us when it applies and who it applies to, and so on. And that's important to be able to carry out proper justice. Okay, let's sum up our next insight. How we said we respect other people's bodies and feelings and property, right? You have to be sensitive to it. Why? Because Hashem said to, not because it makes sense. Okay, clear? Everyone's so good. We'll do a story.
So far, so good.
Yum. Oh no, there's a different one.
This is Reb Zusha. Reb Zusha was once out of Shabbos. He ended up in a strange shul, right before Shabbos. So the story goes, he had 100 rubles. So he put it in the chumash, quickly hid it. But then he said, maybe someone's going to find it. and then they might think to take it, they'll be tempted. So he put it by the words "lo signal." So he figured no one's going to take it, even if they see it, because it's a reminder right there. Okay, so he forgets about it. He goes to Kabbalah Shabbos, and he davens. And a few hours after Shabbos, when he comes down from the cloud, after his Malava Malka and his Farbregan, he goes to check on his money, and the money's gone. Okay, he's about to accept his fate and move on, but he feels a bump. He turns a few pages, and he finds 50 rubles by V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. 50 rubles. So it's already a funny story, but then he turns to heaven and he says, look at the difference between the Mzusha and the thief. When the Mzusha has money, he only thinks about himself. And when the thief has 100 rubles, he shares with me 50, and he thinks V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. And he left for me 50. Okay, so that's the Mzusha story. Now, inside number 3, why does it say V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ani Hashem? You ready? You can't have a meaningful, genuine relationship with Hashem unless you can first properly respect and connect with people. It's impossible. First comes then comes Ani Hashem. If you think that you are having a relationship with Hashem, but you skip this step, you don't have the patience and tolerance for people who are different than you or annoying you, and you don't respect them because they're different and so on, you are delusional. You're fooling yourself. You are not in a relationship with Hashem. It's impossible. A person is in your level, and he's in your realm. If you can't even respect that their existence, their identity, you can't relate to it, that they have a right, to their point of views and their feelings, and really respect them when they're different than you, and they're on your level, it's impossible that you really have a relationship with Hashem, who's in every way beyond us. He's not in our category of existence. So it's a necessary stepping stone. Okay? And this is also the Yom Yom. This explains these two steps. What does it say in our Siddurim? That he brings from the Arizah, that before you daven, which is the relationship with Hashem, it's a time to connect to Hashem, it's very, very appropriate, he brings from the Arizah to say, what's the connection? This is what we're saying, that you can't have a relationship with Hashem unless you make space for other people in your heart, in your life, in your schedule. Then you can start talking about making room for Hashem in your life. But without that first step, you cannot have step 2. That's Ani Hashem. Everyone with me?
Yeah.
Number 4. Okay, this is all interesting what is brought in Sfarim. That people will strengthen their belief in Hashem when they see true Avas Yisrael. Because the way we treat others, our devotion causes people, like that story, sort of the first one about like he wants to be part of the friendship, but there was the king who was representing Hashem. But the truth is, all people will say, where did they get this from? What unites these people? Why are they so caring for each other? And people are impressed with this, and so on. Okay, another idea. The Talmud says, and it's Ani Hashem. What is this? Matam v'ahavta kamocha. What's the reason why you should love every Jew and respect every person? Because Ani Hashem. What does that mean? Ani Hashem barasin. I created every single person. They don't never think this person doesn't deserve respect, doesn't deserve to be valued, doesn't deserve to be respected, because you don't see why. The fact that they exist is testimony that Hashem disagrees with your perception, and there's a very good reason. Everyone is important, everyone has value, everyone's existence is orchestrated by Hashem, with essential purpose and so on, and they're important. And this is how you read the Gemara says to read the pasuk, that it's telling you "V'atarecha kamoicha," and you might say, "Why? Why should I respect this person? He doesn't seem like he deserves it. Why should I be nice to this person?" And the answer is, you don't know how Hashem feels about that person. But you're probably wrong. If you don't think they have value or they deserve respect, you got to work on yourself. Okay, the next one seems I put it here because I'm not hiding anything from you, but it seems very anti-Chabad, and it really needs context. So be careful. Caution. It says like this. In others that have nasan, it says, technically, it's saying that you only have to love a Jew if they behave. If they're behaving the way Hashem wants. Again, there's a lot more to this. Very big disclaimer here. First of all, the reason I'm saying this, the Gemara says, there is a scenario where you could hate another Jew. How do you know that? It talks about if you see the donkey of your enemy, of the one you hate, Chamor Sanecha, the one you hate, how could you hate a Jew? It says you have to love every Jew. So the Gemara gives a whole thing. And the Tanya Perek Lamed Beis explains how it's basically impossible to really check off all the boxes. But it says that if somebody is really, he knows everything properly, and you rebuked him properly, good luck with that, by the way. I'm planning a class one of these days, maybe next week or the week after, just on all the Torah insights about how to give criticism and rebuke, because it's part of this topic, right? It's very, very tricky. So who's to say you did it properly, right? But then, if you did it properly and they're not shaping up, and even then, what does the Alter Rebbe say? You have to split. You have to you have to divide the person. You have to say, I dislike the behavior. But the person himself, you have to find a way to love. And don't define them by their mess up, like we spoke last week, by the Kamoich. Okay, I'm really easy to get along with once you people learn to worship me, said somebody who didn't learn enough Chassidus. Okay, let's review. So far we did, last week we did a lot of insights connected to the word kamoicha. What is the word kamoicha in the pasuk? And this week we did a lot of insights related to Ani Hashem. Let's do one more beautiful story, and we'll start maybe a little bit. We have a few minutes. We'll do the next part, the next discussion I want to do. So this is one of my favorite stories. So whoever was here every few months, I'm for sure repeat it somewhere. But now you get it with the pictures. You got to get it with the pictures. So it's also a great Sfiras Omer story. You're for sure going to repeat this. At least you for sure will have an opportunity to repeat the story during the days of Sfiras Omer, guaranteed. Okay. So the story goes, in the early days of Chassidus, there was a lot of misunderstandings, misconceptions, and animosity position to Chassidus. They called it the cult. They were very nervous about it. There was a few decades before, there was a false Mashiach that tricked a lot of Jews and caused them all to get very deflated, and it was very Kabbalistically oriented. So a lot of people were nervous with justification, and they were very against, and they heard a lot of rumors and bad things about Chassidim and Chassidus and the leaders. So they heard that the Baal Shem Tov was scheduled to drive through the city of Sanz. Okay, Sanz then was a city that was very against the Chassidus. Later on, maybe after this story, it started to change. But this point, it was a fortress of opposition. Okay, now there's a Chassidus called Sanz because it became a famous Chassidic city. But that took a few generations. So the story goes that they heard that the Baal Shem Tov himself, the so-called leader of the cult, is scheduled to travel through our city. They immediately made an emergency meeting of all the leaders and rabbis and the leaders of the community, and they discussed all different ideas what to do about that. And they concluded as follows. Everyone's going to go home and spread the word that they should prepare on their windows rocks and bottles and stones and garbage. And wherever the Baal Shem Tov comes in the city, they're going to throw stones at him and bottles to chase him out of town. The Baal Shem Tov's wagon. It's hard to imagine, but this is what the Jewish community, the leaders, they decided. Everyone participated in it, besides one person. He missed it. Not because he was against it. It was his idea. It was the rabbi of the city. He happened to be, he nodded off. He dozed off on the couch when they passed his window. So he didn't throw anything. But he was woken up right after because someone had a question about something that fell into the chicken soup, if it's kosher or not. Some kind of bug was found, and there was a whole question. And he told them that it's kosher, it's not a problem. A few minutes goes by, and then he thinks of it over, and he says, 1 second, what did I tell them? I told the family they could eat the soup? Oy vey, it was a terrible mistake. There's not enough. They can't eat it. Go quickly, go tell them not to eat it, he tells one of his sons. The boy comes back a few minutes later. I'm sorry, they already ate it. Oh no. Poor rabbi is beside himself with grief. Why did this happen to me? Did I cause the family to eat non-kosher? How could it be that I was the cause of this? What did I do to deserve that? Then he realizes, aha, I know what it is. It's because I didn't throw stones at the Baal Shem Tov's entourage. Obviously, I didn't throw stones in garbage. That's why this happened to me. And he was so serious, he ran outside, he grabbed a few stones, he wants to do a tikkun, he wants to do tshuva. And he runs outside and he asks the people, which way did they go? He wants to chase after them to rectify his terrible mistake. So he runs after them and they point him which way to go. And he catches up to them outside the city. The Baal Shem Tov actually tells his chassid to stop the wagon to allow him to catch up as they're leaving the town. And he comes within distance. Before he can throw anything, the Baal Shem Tov calls out to him and says that in the Be'er Hativ, Sif Katad Yud Zayin, it says that the soup is kosher. The rabbi makes a short stop. That's a classic commentary. It's a paragraph, number 17, whatever. He told him a source. And the rabbi knew how to learn. And he starts thinking over what the Baal Shem Tov just said. And he realizes that the Baal Shem Tov is right. The food was kosher. The soup was okay. He doesn't need a tikkun anymore. And of course, he also realizes that he might have heard inaccurate rumors and accepted them about the Baal Shem Tov and Hasidim. He sees, first of all, the Baal Shem Tov as a holy person. He knows what happened to him. He could read his mind. He knows how to learn. They would say that Hasidim didn't know how to learn. There was all these inaccurate libels and slanders going around. So, very embarrassed, he turns around, ashamed about what he was going to do, that he was going to throw stones at such a holy person. And he drops, all the stones, and he walks back to town. And the Baal Shem Tov walks over to the stones that he dropped. He picks them up and he kisses them. And he tells his Hasidim, look at these precious Jews. They're so sincere. They mean so well. They really just want to do what's right. And he starts like telling his Hasidim about this. This is why I told you it's a $1 million Sfiras Omer story. When we mourned the loss of the students of Rabbi Akiva, they didn't respect each other because they couldn't respect the different ways of serving Hashem. People serve Hashem a little different than you, right? You have to find a way, instead of degrading them and diminishing them and putting them down or doing harm to them, chas v'shalom, with words or action. You have to find a way to focus on the beautiful neshama that's there and magnify that. When you shine a light on things, it gets reinforced and glows brighter. That's our job. That's what we have to learn. Now, we're not the level of the Baal Shem Tov, but I hope no one's throwing stones at us. It's people look at things and feel things and they do things a little different. It's the whole challenge and the theme of Sfiras Omer is to find a way to respect them. Okay.
And then to convert them to Chabad.
No, that's not Chabad. Chabad is to bring them closer to Hashem. Whatever their journey is. For some people, you make sure they marry a Jew. Some people they're going to put on tefillin, and some people, obviously, if they're ready to learn more, you'll try to get them to go to yeshiva, and you'll teach them Torah, and then you'll try to connect them to the Moshe Rabbeinu as well. But it's not a prerequisite. It's not some. We're very happy if when we meet somebody, just get them to connect with their neshama a little bit, with the tefillin, and everything every mitzvah has infinite value. Okay, 6:30 already. Wow. Okay, we'll continue next week. B'ezras Hashem. One day we're gonna do. Maybe next Sunday we'll do again a continuation of Ahavas Yisrael. So let's do halacha now till dinner break.